Eve of World War I, British and German soldiers laid down their weapons to celebrate the holiday together. Amid the atrocities of war arose the Christmas Truce of 1914, one human episode that has endured as an archetypal image of peace. Beginning in some places on Christmas Eve and in others on Christmas Day, the truce covered as much as 2/3 of the British-German front, including French and Belgian units. Thousands of soldiers took part. In some places, it lasted through December 26th, and in some places through mid-January. Perhaps most remarkably, it grew out of no single initiative, but sprang up in each place spontaneously and independently. In Aaron Shepard's play, you'll hear words British soldiers wrote to their loved ones back home, describing the remarkable events of the Christmas Truce. These first-hand accounts are drawn from actual letters and diaries soldiers wrote from the battlefields of World War I. Although another Christmas truce is not likely in our time, still, what happened on that Christmas of 1914 may inspire the peacemakers of today. For now, as always, the best time to make peace is long before the armies go to war. And now, The Christmas Truce by Aaron Shepard.
Christmas Day, year of our Lord, 1914, dear mother.
My darling Meg.
My good friend Charles.
My dear sister Janet.
It's 2 in the morning, and most of our men are asleep in the dugouts.
Yet I could not sleep myself before writing to you of the wonderful events of Christmas Eve.
In truth, what happened seems almost like a fairy tale. And if I hadn't been through it myself, I would scarce believe it.
Just imagine, while you and the family sang carols before the fire there in London, I did the same with enemy soldiers here on the battlefields of France.
As I wrote before, there's been little serious fighting to date, but the first battles of the war left so many dead that both sides have held back until replacements could come from home. So, we've mostly stayed in our trenches and waited.
But what a terrible waiting it has been, knowing that any moment an artillery shell might land and explode beside us in the trench, killing or maiming several men. And in daylight, not daring to lift our heads above ground for fear of a sniper's bullet.
And the rain. It has fallen almost daily. Of course, it collects right in our trenches where we must bail it out with pots and pans. And with the rain has come mud, a good foot or more deep.
It splatters and cakes everything and constantly sucks at our boots. One new recruit got his feet stuck in it, and then his hands too when he tried to get out. Just like in that American story of the Tar Baby.
Through all this, we couldn't help but feel curious about the German soldiers across the way. After all, they faced the same dangers we did and slogged about in the same muck.
What's more, their first trench was only 50 yards from ours. Between us lay no man's land, bordered on both sides by barbed wire. Yet they were close enough that we sometimes heard their voices.
Of course, we hated them when they killed our friends. But other times we joked about them and almost felt that we had something in common.
And now it seems they felt the same.
Just yesterday morning, Christmas Eve day, we had our first good freeze. Cold as we were, we welcomed it, because at least the mud froze solid.
Everything was tinged white with frost, with a bright sun shining over all. Perfect Christmas weather.
During the day, there was little shelling or rifle fire from either side. And as darkness fell on Christmas Eve, the shooting stopped entirely.
Our first complete silence in months. We hoped it might promise a peaceful holiday, but we weren't counting on it. We'd been told the Germans might attack and try to catch us off guard.
I went to the dugout to rest, and lying on my cot, I must have drifted asleep. All at once, my friends were shaking me awake and saying, come and see what the Germans are doing. I grabbed my rifle and stumbled out into the trench, stuck my head above the sandbags, but cautiously.
I never hoped to see a stranger or more lovely sight. Clusters of tiny lights were shining all along the German line, left and right, as far as the eye could see.
What is it? I asked in bewilderment. And someone answered, Christmas trees.
And so it was. The Germans had placed Christmas trees in front of their trenches, lit by candle or lantern, like beacons of goodwill.
And then we heard their voices raised in song.
This carol may not yet be familiar to us in Britain, but one soldier knew it and translated it. Silent night, holy night. I've never heard one lovelier or more meaningful. In that quiet, clear night, its dark softened by a first quarter moon.
When the song finished, the men in our trenches applauded. Yes, British soldiers applauding Germans.
Then one of our own men started singing, and we all joined in.
The first Noel, the angels did say.
In truth, we sounded not nearly as good as the Germans with their fine harmonies. But they responded with enthusiastic applause of their own, and then began another. Oh, Tannenbaum, oh, Tannenbaum.
Then we replied,
Oh, come, all ye faithful.
But this time they joined in, singing the words in Latin.
Adeste fideles.
British and German harmonizing across no man's land. I would have thought nothing could have been more amazing. But what came next was more so.
English, come over! We heard one of them shout, you must shoot, we must shoot!
there, in the trenches. We looked at each other in bewilderment. Then one of us shouted jokingly, you come over here.
And to our astonishment, we saw two figures rise from the trench, climb over their barbed wire, and advance unprotected across no man's land.
One of them called, send officer to talk.
I saw one of our men lift his rifle to the ready, and no doubt others did the same. But our captain called out, hold your fire! And then he climbed out, and we met the Germans halfway.
We heard them talking, and a few minutes later, the captain came back with a German cigar in his mouth. We've agreed there will be no shooting before midnight tomorrow, but sentries are to remain on duty, and the rest of you, stay alert.
Across the way, we can make out two groups of 2 or 3 men starting out across the trenches towards us.
Then some of us were climbing out too. And in minutes more, there we were in no man's land. Over 100 soldiers and officers of each side, shaking hands with men we'd been trying to kill just a few hours earlier.
Before long, a bonfire was built, and around it we mingled. British khaki and German gray. I must say, the Germans were better dressed with fresh uniforms for the holidays.
Only a couple of our men knew German, but more of the Germans knew English. I asked one of them why that was. Huh, because we're worked in England. Before this, I was a waiter at your Hotel Cecil. Perhaps I waited on your table. Perhaps he did.
One German told me that he had a girlfriend in London and that the war had interrupted their plans for marriage. I said, don't worry, we'll have you beat by Easter. and then you can come back and marry the girl. Well, then he laughed at that. Then he asked if I'd send her a postcard he'd give me later, and I said I would.
Another German had been a porter at Victoria Station. He showed me a picture of his family back in Munich. His eldest sister was so lovely. I told him I should like to meet her someday. He beamed and said he would like that very much, and gave me his family's address.
Even those who could not converse could still exchange gifts. Our cigarettes for their cigars, our tea for their coffee, our corned beef for their sausages. Badges and buttons from uniforms changed owners. And one of our lads walked off with the infamous spiked helmet.
I traded a jackknife for a leather equipment belt. A fine souvenir to show when I get home.
Newspapers also changed hands, and the Germans howled with laughter at ours. Well, they assured us that France was finished and Russia nearly beaten too.
We told them that was nonsense. And one of them said, well, you believe your newspapers, and we'll believe ours.
Clearly, they were lied to. And yet, after meeting these men, I wonder how truthful our own newspapers have been.
These are not the savage barbarians we've read so much about. They are men with homes and families, hopes and fears, principles, and, yes, love of country.
In other words, men like ourselves.
Why are we led to believe otherwise?
As it grew late, a few more songs were traded around the fire, and then all joined in for I'm Not Lying to You, Old Lang Syne.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old
Then
acquaintance
we parted with promises to meet again tomorrow.
And even some talked of a football match.
I was heading just back to the trenches when an older German caught my arm. My God, he said, why cannot we have peace and just go home? I told him gently, that you must ask your emperor. He looked at me then searchingly. Perhaps, my friend, but also we must ask our hearts.
And so, dear mother,
Dear wife,
Dear friend,
Dear sister,
tell me, has there ever been such a Christmas Eve in all of history?
and what does it all mean? This impossible befriending of enemies.
for the fighting here, of course, it means, regrettably, little. Decent fellows these soldiers may be, but they follow orders, and we do the same.
besides, we are here to stop their army and send it home. And never could we shirk that duty.
Still, one cannot help imagine what would happen if the spirit shown here were caught by the nations of the world.
Of course, disputes must always arise.
But what if our leaders were to offer well wishes in place of warnings?
Songs instead of slurs.
Presents in place of reprisals.
Would not all war end at once?
All nations say they want peace.
Yet on this Christmas morning,